I came. I saw. I totally saw it. Hello guys, welcome, or if you've already seen my channel before, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and for this video, well, if you've seen the title, which I'm sure you have, yes, Steptoe Son, I totally stepped up and saw it. Alright guys, so Steptoe Son, if you're here, then you probably know what the show is. If you don't know what the show is, my God, thank you just for coming to the video. Alright, so, as some people know, on my channel, every now and again, I get recommendations from other people to see certain shows that I have never seen before. And one of those shows I was told to see was something beautiful, something iconic, and it was called Steptoe Son. And I'm telling you now, friends, I saw it. And when I say I saw it, I mean I kind of saw it, because truth is, this was a show that I only found Region 2 versions of, except for the movies. Yeah, so when I say I saw Steptoe Son, I mean I saw Steptoe Son, the movie, and Steptoe Son Right Again, the two films about the TV show. Alright, so, brief history about those who know of Steptoe Son. Steptoe Son is a BBC sitcom that I believe first aired, oh, and before I begin, disclaimer, if any of my facts are wrong, because I'm going to be throwing a lot of names and dates at you guys, if any of them are wrong, correct me in the comment section below. You are awesome. Yes, now let us begin. So Steptoe Son is a British sitcom that was on the BBC from I believe about 1962 from 1965. And it was so popular. At some point it was named the #1 British comedy probably ever when it comes to sitcoms on BBC. And I believe in 2001, on the Channel 4 poll, Albert, who's one of the characters, was ranked as the 39th on the list of 100 greatest TV characters. And Albert is the lead character, or one of the two lead characters on the show. That's how iconic this very much was. And I believe in the year 2000, this show was ranked on number 44 of the 100 greatest TV British comedies. Again, correct me below in case I'm incorrect about that one. But those are some of the statistics I've seen. Okay, now, 1962 to 1965. But it got a reemergence in, I believe, 1970 to 1974. Yes, so there was a show, then it was revived in the 70s. And Steptoe Son and Steptoe Son, the film, occur in that stretch of time of the 70s. Steptoe Son, the first movie, I believe, aired in 1972, and Steptoe Son Right Again, the second film, aired in 1973. Yeah, they were riding a high, and it was just boom, one right after the other. And Steptoe Son, so Steptoe Son, Steptoe Son, Steptoe Son, is about these two rag and bone junk men who run a rag and bone business. It's like, again, a junkyard and where they collect, scraps and antiques, and that's how they make their economy. And Steptoe, that's Albert Steptoe. That's the father. And then the son is, well, unless it's a TV show, he's just called the son, but from what I don't know about that. But from the movies, he's called Harold. His name is Harold. And when it comes to the show, I believe it was written and created by Ray Galton and Alan Simpson. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And the lead characters of Steptoe was played by, I believe, Wilfred Bramble, and Harold, the son, was played by Harry Corbett. In the films, the first film, Steptoe Son, I believe was directed by Cliff Owen, and the second one, Steptoe Son Right Again, was directed by Peter Sykes. And both of the films were produced by Aida Young. And I believe Ray Galton and Alan Simpson also wrote the screenplays for the two films, as well as being the creators of the show. So correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below about any of that. Now, Steptoe Son. Alright, this is a show which is in all essentials a comedy, or at least the films are all essentials a comedy. But like comedy, it has a nerve of, or at least a strain of tragedy that goes through it that makes it very hilarious. Steptoe Son is about something, well, it's a show about two men who, and here in America, white people often refer to as white trash. And those people are like, oh my God, how dare you say that? Hey, social justice workers. I admit I am not a politically correct channel. So if you want to start getting on my case, I will stab you with my knitting needle. Yes, I knit. And in fact, right now, I am knitting a scarf for one of my relatives who is a Hufflepuff from Harry Potter, and yes, there is evidence that I am a knitter. Bam! So yes, I am not afraid to say, when I say I will stab you with my knitting needle, it will hurt. Yes, it will. Okay, so, now back to the show. And Steptoe Son, so it's kind of really about these two men who do run this, father and son run a rag and bone business, and the son always has desires of improving himself and getting out of a situation, improving his life, but his father, Albert Steptoe, in many ways kind of holds him down. And that's when I first was greeted with when it came to Steptoe Son, the film. I got what the plot of that one is. Son, Harold, he goes to a party slash of sorts where there is a stripper played by Carolyn Seymour, I believe, who, for me personally, I'm a hetero woman, but if I'm going to rank women, I'd say that woman was a freaking 10. She was gorgeous. And she is a stripper, and so he meets her, the son, and they fall madly in love. They get engaged after one night, and his father, oh gosh, for lack of better terminology, Albert Steptoe, totally ruins his son's chances with this woman. They get married and everything, but he's always in the way, impeding the progress of this marriage. It could have worked, but it's never going to, because of Albert Steptoe going everywhere with his son. Like, literally, he's a shadow to his son, but his son just can't break away from him. And then with Steptoe Son right again, it's about how Harold goes to buy a new horse, but instead he buys a racing dog. But the racing dog is a complete, gyp. The racing dog is fast, but he just can't, he's not trained to run races. So about training him to run races. However, he puts all of his money on it. Harold puts all of his money on it. And the dog, even though the dog is fast, he proves to be unsuccessful. So their plan to, make back the money that they owe on this dog and from the money they lost on the racetrack is to pretend like Albert Steptoe is dead. Yes, so they can collect the insurance money. Unfortunately, what they don't realize is, or at least what the father, Albert Steptoe, forgets, is that he signed over his insurance to a woman he met who was like 18 when he married her. And it's like, dude, you dirty old man, Albert. You dirty old man. But hilarity ensues when they do actually begin to bury Albert Steptoe. And guest cast there, we have Frank Thornton, who you might know from the TV show Are You Being Served? But also, we have an actor who was in Doctor Who. He was in the episode The Power of Kroll. Both guest stars did a good job. But what makes Steptoe Son brilliant, besides just the writing? Because the writing is genius. It is a very well done, films. If the films are emblematic of the TV show, I see why it was called the #1 of British sitcoms, because the writing is incredible. It's absolutely hilarious. But really what makes it work are Albert Steptoe and Harold, again played by Wilfred Brambell and Harry Corbett. These two actors are freaking geniuses. I mean, they really are incredible. They are just so awesome, but they go back to what I said before of the way comedy works, true comedy works, is if a comedy, for it to be fully successful, has to have elements of tragedy in it. Because through the tragedy, we get the cruelty, and through the cruelty, we get the humor. And with Albert Steptoe impeding his son's progress in the film Steptoe Son, hilarity does in fact ensue. And with Harold being completely disappointed and going through these extreme conditions to get out of the debt that he's put himself in, again, tragedy has to occur for the comedy to fully happen. That's the thing about comedy and tragedy. They're very linked elements. Just the way how you have to have a slither of tragedy going through comedy for it to be funny. It's like when you have to have a slither of comedy in tragedy for something to be truly tragic. Don't believe me? Watch Romeo and Juliet sometime and you'll see, wait a minute, this is a play that happened all because, a tragedy that occurred all because the monk unfortunately had the grave misfortune of his letter to be completely thwarted and not sent due to faulty postal service. That's why Romeo and Juliet died at the end. All because of faulty postal service. And when you've got things like Hamlet, it's like Hamlet goes through his entire play, and then at the end he finally kills his uncle, and it's like, dude, he had all these opportunities up until then, but he kept finding ways to delete it, or to deter his progress. And then, who's the person he does first kill? Polonius, the father of the girl he's really madly in love with. And why does he kill Polonius? Because he stabs him through a curtain when he thinks it's King Claudius in his mother's bedroom. And it's like, Hamlet, don't you know the time-honored truth? When you're going to kill someone, see their face first before you kill them. If not, you could always kill the wrong guy. It's comedy. It's truly comedic. And then with Oedipus Rex, one of the most iconic tragedies in history, it's like, hey, Oedipus, you didn't bother to stop and think about that person you killed on the road all these years ago and didn't bother to connect the dots? Okay, right. And then you got the true crowning of comedy himself, Macbeth. Ah, crap. I totally said the name of the play. Now I'm going to have bad luck. Hold on one second, guys. I got to do the whole... When you say the name Macbeth, the name of the play, unfortunately you got to do a whole ritual to like rub bad luck off you. Sorry about that, guys. Hold on one second. Oh, in America, our way of getting rid of the bad luck is you got to spin around 3 times, say hot potato, and then spit. I'm not joking. Okay, here we go. Dang it. Hot potato, hot. God, sorry. Okay, I'm back. Scottish play. Alright, in the Scottish play, you know, the whole play could have been pretty much avoided if it weren't for Macbeth. And I can say Macbeth because I'm saying the name of the character, not the name of the play. If the character Macbeth, when he was with his friend, they both learn the time-honored code. When 3 weird-looking old women come up to you and start prophesizing, you don't stick around and listen. You walk in the other direction like any person with common sense. Yes, Macbeth, you gotta learn a time-honored code, buddy. Don't talk to the crazy person on the street. Just keep walking. See? When it comes to tragedy, has to have an element of comedy going through it to be fully tragic. Same thing goes with comedy. To be truly comedic, you gotta have an element of tragedy going throughout it. Now, when it comes to Steptoe and Steptoe Son ride together, the comedy is fully realized and well realized because of the tragedy that happens underneath it. And when it comes to Harold and his father, Albert Steptoe, not only are they both very tragic characters, especially Harold. When I was watching Steptoe Son, I had a hard time thinking of should I watch it again, because it was just so tragic what Harold went through. You feel bad, genuinely bad for Harold. You feel bad for the fact that you know his father's going to thwart every single situation he's in, and his father totally does. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. But the reason why it also works, not just the writing being absolute genius, but the characters of Steptoe and Son, played by, again, Bramble and Corbett. It's brilliant because these actors are geniuses. I mean, I have never watched 2 men who are so hypnotic in their performance than these 2 actors. They're just so darn good with what they do. They just understand how to do every beat, every moment. Everything is just perfectly done, and there's such a magnetism to their chemistry together as father and son. It's almost mesmerizing to watch those 2, and that's what makes it perfect. But it's not just because they're good at playing up the comedy. The reason why they're good at playing up the comedy is because they know how to play up the tragedy. For example, in Steptoe and Son, when Steptoe, Albert, he is on the honeymoon with his son and his new wife, and he has food poisoning. Albert Steptoe, again, Bramble, plays it up so tragically, like you feel like he's about to cry with the pain he's in, even though you know this is going to be comedic because he's going to totally ruin his son's chances with his beautiful new bride, Carolyn Seymour. Perfect 10 of a woman. He's going to completely ruin it for his son, but he makes you feel the tragedy of it so much, you almost begin to cry when you're watching him. And then when Harold is working himself to the bone so that his son can have a good life because he has a baby on his hands now. You feel for Harold working himself to death to make enough money so his son can go to a good school when his son gets older. You genuinely feel awful for Harold. You feel so bad for him. It's so tragic, but it's perfectly done because of the actors they got who were absolute geniuses. And then the comedy. Okay, well, I laughed. I mean, when I first watched Steptoe Son and I saw them get a ticket because their horse was parked in the area, in that one area, I was like, I knew what I was in for. And the very end when they to the car, which you know is a prestigious car, and they just laugh at the end. Very classic. But for some reason, the moment that I truly lost it on, I don't know why, is after they're searching for the wedding ring, because the father lost the wedding ring in the junkyard, and they come to the church smelling like manure, and they walk in, and then the son bows, and the father, Albert, crosses himself. I don't know why. I freaking laughed and lost it right at that moment. Each time I watch it, when he crosses himself, I just freaking laugh. I don't know why. It's just the actors were so good with what they were doing. And Harold Corbett I found kind of sexy and very attractive. I think it's because he reminds me of an older version of Trevor Bannister, who I find totally smoking hot. If you don't know who Trevor Bannister is, it's okay. It's okay. So there's that as well. But here's the thing. Before I even saw Steptoe Son and Steptoe Son Right Again, I was mentioning this to my coworker. If anyone's seen my previous channel or saw my Fawlty Towers episode, you know it's the actor who plays Benjamin Franklin. He said, oh, Steptoe Son, you do know that actually it was Steptoe Son which was what inspired the American TV show Sanford and Son. And being an African-American girl in West Philadelphia, Sanford and Son was a show that totally I grew up on. I said, so I was like, what? They're like, yeah. Steptoe Son was the show that inspired Sanford and Son. Sanford and Son was an Americanized version of Steptoe Son. And Sanford and Son is about, again, father and son, black, African Americans, father and son, who are literally what I call, the black rundowns of life. Again, if you want to be politically correct with me, I've got a knitting needle. Not afraid to use it. Yes, but Sanford and Son are like, the black African American, everyday, everyman, humdrum, lower classes of life. And that's what made them so wonderful to watch. Comedy because of the tragedy that runs through it. Now to the production side of Steptoe Son and Steptoe Son Right Again. I believe both films were produced by Aida Young. And they are perfectly done. The production is wonderful. The sets are wonderful. The direction is wonderful. The lighting design is wonderful. Everything about it is fan-freaking-tastic. When I saw the set to Steptoe Son on the TV, it reminded me of a British version of Sam Shepard's play, True West. Unless I'm thinking about the wrong play. No, I think I'm not. True West. And it was very well done. Beautifully done show. Very well crafted. Steptoe Son, two deliciously good characters. I loved watching them. And their performances, these actors are just fan-freaking-tastic actors. When it comes to Carolyn Seymour's character, with her being played by her character's a stripper, I loved her character in many ways. I understand why she got frustrated with him at the very end, and yes, she hurt Harold, but I see why she got frustrated. But I liked her in the very beginning, because what you got is a woman playing a stripper, and she's not ashamed of it. This is a woman who actually is perfectly fine with who she is, because she sees the power of being seductive. She's like, no. I am perfectly fine taking my clothes off in public because if you have a nice body, show it off. And also, I find power in being sexy. And I like that there was no slut shaming when it comes to her character with how she viewed her character. I like that. I like the idea of, again, sexy being a form of power. It was just, I like that a lot. So, I did very much like Steptoe Son the film, and Steptoe Son Right Again the film as well. So guys, have you seen Steptoe? Have you not seen Steptoe? If you have, what do you think about it? I absolutely love it. I thought the characters of Steptoe Son were deliciously brilliant in the show itself. If the show is like the films, it's very well written. So guys, thank you so much. And again, have you seen Steptoe? Have you not? I saw it, and I see why people were pressuring me to see it. Because it's brilliantly beautiful. Guys, thank you. I'll see you again very soon. I believe I shall. Bye, guys.